All right, let's jump right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to peel back the glittering, diamond-encrusted layers of Kevin Kwan's absolute global phenomenon, Crazy Rich Asians. Now, on the surface, it's this lavish, incredibly fun romantic comedy. But if you look underneath all the designer labels and private jets, there is a fascinating, high-stakes world of hidden social hierarchies, intense culture clashes, and literally psychological warfare. So whether you read the book years ago or you've never even seen the movie, we're going to break down exactly what makes this franchise such a massive cultural juggernaut.
Think of today's agenda as your ultimate survival guide to navigating Singapore's highest society. We'll be hitting 1. Welcome to the young family. 2. Old money versus new money. 3. The ultimate culture clash. 4. The book versus the movie. 5. The famous Mahjong showdown. And 6. The legacy of Crazy Rich.
Welcome to the young family.
Okay, so the whole premise kicks off when Rachel Chu, an Asian-American economics professor, agrees to take a trip to Singapore with her boyfriend, Nick Young. The catch? She is completely unaware of his immense wealth. Kevin Kwan actually opens the novel with a 14th century quote from traveler Ibn Battuta. Nowhere in the world are there to be found people richer than the Chinese. And honestly, it perfectly sets the stage for the sheer unimaginable scale of wealth Rachel is walking into. Nick isn't just comfortable, he belongs to one of the 10 wealthiest families in all of Asia. And just by being on his arm, Rachel instantly puts a massive target on her own back.
To really understand what Rachel is up against, we kind of have to break down this dizzying array of relatives. First, there's Nick Young. He's the reluctant heir, raised in London, keeps a super low profile, but he's the golden boy and sole heir to this vast fortune. Then there's his mother, Eleanor Young. She is the controlling matriarch, absolutely obsessed with prestige and actively plotting to sabotage Rachel. Next, we have Nick's cousin, Astrid Leong. She's the elegant rule breaker, but behind closed doors, she's actually struggling with a failing marriage to a guy who feels totally emasculated by her wealth. And finally, Eddie Cheng, another cousin. He is the ultimate status seeker, a flashy Hong Kong banker who just wants to impress literally everyone.
Section 2. Old money versus new money.
See, navigating this universe isn't just about how much money you have in the bank. It's about how long you've had it. Nick's family represents the Straits Chinese, the ultimate top-tier old money. Their roots trace all the way back to the colonial era. They hold massive multi-generational monopolies in things like palm oil, and above all else, they are fiercely secretive. They keep a very low profile. And because of that, they completely look down on the Bao Fa Hu, the new money. These are the folks with newly minted fortunes who are characterized by flashy spending and, waiting in massive queues outside Gucci stores.
Kwan is actually using a ton of brilliant social satire here. He's directly mocking Western stereotypes that treat Asian wealth as this brand new, tacky phenomenon. Like in the novel, there's this Parisian character who assumes Chinese tourists were all just penniless communists in drab uniforms a few years ago. It completely ignores the deeply rooted, historical, and incredibly sophisticated wealth of families like the Youngs. The satire is just razor sharp.
Section 3. The ultimate culture clash.
So once you get past all the extravagant parties and the crazy designer clothes, this romance really turns into an intense psychological battle. Which brings us to the big question. Why does Eleanor actually hate Rachel? I mean, it's super easy to write Eleanor off as just a snobby villain, right? Just a mean mom who thinks a middle-class girl is a gold digger. But if we actually analyze her psychology, her motivations go way deeper than that.
It all boils down to a fundamental clash of values. Rachel represents Western individualism. She's economically independent, raised by a single immigrant mom, and she fundamentally believes in pursuing personal happiness. Eleanor is the exact opposite. She represents Asian collectivism. Her whole life is built on family duty, economic interdependence, and fiercely protecting her family's dynastic legacy. I mean, Eleanor sacrificed her own personal ambitions to secure her place in this family.
Listen to this quote from Eleanor. Why do we Chinese never learn? Every time we get mixed up with the West, everything falls apart. This perfectly captures her mindset. To Eleanor, Rachel isn't just poor, she's a literal ideological threat. Eleanor truly believes she's protecting a fragile ancient legacy from being destroyed by modern Western values that put the individual ahead of the clan. It is a profound clash of civilizations, playing out right in the middle of a family dinner.
Section 4. The book versus the movie.
Now, when they translated this huge, dense 2013 novel into a 2018 Hollywood blockbuster, they had to make some major structural changes. Take the timeline, for example. In the book, Rachel's invited to Singapore for the entire summer.
so she has ample time to organically explore high society and figure out the family dynamics. But the movie? It compresses all of that into a very quick spring break. And that seemingly small tweak dramatically ramps up the cinematic tension. It creates this immediate, high-pressure urgency for Rachel to impress the Youngs before her flight home.
The way Eleanor is portrayed completely shifts too. Book Eleanor is way more subtle. She uses this deceptive politeness, barely even interacts with Rachel, and basically spends the whole book secretly digging for dirt through a private investigator. But movie Eleanor, she is front and center. She is openly disdainful. She meets Rachel way earlier and takes a highly active role in directly making her feel inadequate. It just makes the on-screen conflict so much more explosive.
There are a few other really crucial differences to note. Take Astrid's husband, Michael. In the book, his storyline is heartbreaking. He actually fakes his affair to escape the crushing pressure of her family's wealth, but does it to protect Astrid's reputation. In the movie, just because of time constraints, the affair is actually real. Also, Rachel's best friend Paik Lin is pretty down-to-earth in the novel, but obviously, played by Awkwafina in the movie, she becomes this major comedic relief. And importantly, Nick's family is so secretive in the book that Paik Lin's wealthy family has never even heard of them. In the movie, the Youngs are basically globally famous, which makes Nick's secret seem way bigger.
Section 5. The famous Mahjong Showdown.
This scene is a movie-only edition, and it is an absolutely brilliant way to resolve the story's themes. But to get why it's so perfect, we have to remember Rachel's job. The film goes out of its way to establish that Rachel isn't just an economics professor. Her specific specialty is game theory, the study of strategic interactions among rational agents, which beautifully sets the stage for her to invite Eleanor to one final strategic game of Mahjong.
So, what happens at the table? Rachel draws the winning tile. She has the game won, but she purposefully folds. She lets Eleanor win, reveals her own winning hand, and then just abruptly leaves. It's an incredible strategic move. By doing this, Rachel proves her ultimate strength. She shows Eleanor that she is willing to sacrifice her own happiness, to walk away from Nick just so Nick doesn't have to lose his family. She outplays Eleanor by proving she is strong enough to walk away.
And that creates a vastly different ending than the novel. In the book, the whole conflict with Eleanor is left pretty unresolved, and Rachel just accepts Nick's first, rather normal proposal. But the movie ending, it wraps things up in a highly theatrical, satisfying bow. Rachel rejects the first proposal, wins Eleanor's respect through that massive sacrifice at the Mahjong table, and that leads to a dramatic airplane proposal where Nick uses Eleanor's own custom ring, signaling his mother's final approval.
Section 6. The Legacy of Crazy Rich. So why does this story continue to resonate globally? Well, academics and critics point out that it functions as a really sharp social satire. It explores transnational capitalism, class mobility, and the shifting identity of Chineseness in the modern world. Rather than just celebrating wealth, it's a nuanced look at a new logic of Asian modernity, one that both engages with and challenges Western dominance over global capitalism.
Of course, as part of the broader cultural conversation, it's also important to impartially report on the valid critiques the franchise faced regarding representation. While it was widely celebrated as a monumental win for Asian representation in Western media, some voices, particularly in Singapore, raised concerns. As this quote from Mr. Eng highlights, critics pointed out that Singapore's working-class citizens, specifically brown and Southeast Asian characters, were largely relegated to roles as guards or domestic workers. It sparked an important dialogue about the real-world exclusionary nature of the ultra-elite circles depicted in the story.
Ultimately, the legacy here is multifaceted. It remains a massive milestone for representation, but beyond that, it uses humor to deliver a really sharp critique of extreme wealth. It gives us a deep, thoughtful exploration of individualism colliding with deeply ingrained family duty. And at its very core, it proves that even people with unimaginable wealth still deal with completely relatable relationship problems. They are just wrapped up in very, very expensive packaging.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? If having literally all the money in the world can't buy you an escape from the heavy burden of family expectations, is the ultimate luxury actually just the freedom to simply be yourself? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you next time.